Welcome to this video on the Ishwara channel. If you clicked on this video, you might be interested in Chinese magic. So I might not look like a Chinese person, but I've got the Chinese lineage. So things like paper dolls. Sometimes someone does something you don't like and you make a little white paper doll of them and you take it on an obstacle course for a ride. Or, there's also the technique of the goo. And I have the mastery of these techniques. In the goo, we create a living organism which connects to the soul of the caster, who can transfer it over in ownership to someone he sells the goo to. This can be a centipede or other things. A silkworm. A different type of goo give different boons. But you don't want to be the holder of the goo when the goo dies. So playing with goo is very dangerous. And I remember in my lineage creating goo many a time. The ones who create the goo are feared, but they are also dirty in a way. That's okay. You can call me dirty. But the goo is real. And what you do is you put these things, these animals, in a pot. And then you bind the magic to your soul. And you create a form of familiar, which is the goo. But if the goo dies, it is not good to be the holder. So you must pass the goo on to someone else before it dies. Also, different goo do different things. I have other Chinese lineage. I have the Chinese lineage, Chinese animism. And in Chinese animism, the Chinese animist is also feared. I sense a recurring theme here that Chinese magic is feared. After all, it is second in power on the magical chart. So there are other techniques, such as card spreads, techniques with needles, techniques with Shakti. For in the ancient lineages on the Chinese paths, there are also applications of Shakti. Whether you call it Qi or whatever you call it. But there are some lineages that are very feared. There is the Chinese lineage of the Goo Master who is feared. There is the Chinese lineage of animism, which is extremely feared. Or the animist works in a different way. The animist could do something like take a dead body of an animal and connect it to someone and do things to that dead body of an animal to do things to the person it's connected to. Scary stuff. So there are many such magical, scary lineages that exist in different cultures, but Chinese lineages are particularly feared, such as Thailand lineages, Asian lineages in general. And there's also the most feared of all the lineages, of course, which happens to be a Chinese lineage, making that lineage the most powerful of all the lineages. However, it is a rare lineage, and the masters are extremely rare and precious and hard to find. But once they are employed, they are usually employed at the level of the state. They are masters that work great levels of strategy into place. And these are the masters of a lineage which is only known as the Chinese lineage called strategy. This is the name of that lineage. And it is the most powerful of all the strategic lineages. It is the most powerful of all the lineages. And interestingly enough, it is a magical lineage, but it does not in itself grant magical ability to its master or its grandmaster. It is like a side lineage, a side chain, a specific lineage that you can only obtain if you are initiated into the lineage. And it calculates the numbers of battles and victories that you have obtained and that you continue to obtain in all your operations. And depending on the performance in the system of all your performances, it grades you. And if you reach certain milestones in the system, you may reach the level of master of the Chinese lineage called strategy. And once you have won more than millions of battles and conflicts and wars, millions, think about that. It is possible to reach the level of the Grand Master. There is one thing that is said about the Master, and consequently the Grand Master of Chinese strategy. You can't beat him, so you have to join him. You can't convert him, so you have to join him. You can't ignore him, so you have to join him. It is the most feared of all the magical lineages in creation. But in a way, it is the strategic lineage, where the power comes not in the ability to cast spells or in magical abilities or curses or things like that. It comes with a different type of power, where the very system bends in all its stories to your will in strategy. No flashy fireballs or lightning strikes. But all of a sudden, if you faced the master of the Chinese lineage called strategy, one day you realize that you lost. and that the loss is total. It is a magical lineage. So this is the most feared of all the Chinese lineages. For the Chinese master of that lineage often has other lineages as well, and has abilities to cast magic in other lineages. It's just that that lineage itself is not about magic casting. It's about the system bending to your strategy and will, and giving you victory in whatever you do. It is a form of the eternal victory of the Chinese magical system, which stands side by side with the eternal victory of the Dharma, and the term J Dharma, victory to the Dharma. Within the magical systems of the Dharma and the Chinese magical systems, the Dharma magical systems actually stand higher in power. However, they're so cursed with everybody who put curses on them that they're difficult to properly execute at the higher levels of magic. The Chinese systems, if you don't have the Chinese lineage like me, you don't understand anything about them. So you can't resist them, you can't do anything. And you can't curse them either. But their strict power level is under the systems of the Dharma. They stand side by side in an alliance at the first level and the second level of the magical power systems, the Dharma and the Chinese magical lineages. And underneath them in the third place are the voodoo lineages of the Orisha, supported by the Loa. So these systems stand at the third level of magical power, and there are other magical systems that you don't necessarily know about which also stand at some of these levels and other levels underneath as well. And it's not because it's under level underneath that it's not effective. It means if you put it in a straight contest of will between two masters, what level would come out on top? So the only reason that the Dharma lineages of magic are the most powerful is because these are the Dharma lineages of the Shri. And the reason that the Chinese lineages are so powerful is because they cannot be defeated. So the alliance of the Shri and the Chinese lineage that cannot be defeated brings you to the victory of the Dharma and the victory of all the other magical systems. For the Dharma and the Chinese magical systems guide the evolution of the magical systems that fall underneath. And when I say magical systems, I also mean the evolution of the human beings that fall under those magical systems, which means the future of your lives and your destiny. Thank you for listening to this video on the Zen Word channel.